Good morning, good afternoon, and or good evening. Whatever time you found this video, I hope it has found you well. I'm going to do something a little bit different. There's the release party is happening on Friday and possibly Saturday, I'm not completely sure, for Eldritch Moon, and I have these boosters to open. Now, in my last video I opened 10 boosters, my winning from the Saturday tournament. Now what I want to do with these boosters, I'll open them up and show the contents, but then since the pre-release, I'm not sure how it's doing, if it's going to be sealed deck or if it's going to be something else. But if it is sealed deck, what I'm going to do is take these boosters and I'm going to try and build a deck from them, which means I'm going to have to open them up and comment on the cards at an unprecedented rate, something I'm not used to doing. So let's just get started. Alright, still going to try and organize them. White, green, black, red, blue. Still do the Wooberg. Like that. Oop, just out of shot, isn't it? There we go. Alright, now we just keep going from there. Go ahead and put artifacts there. Commons, uncommons, blue. We have a blue rare. That's our flip card. It's red. Flip cards here. I guess so. Here's our checklist card, and we have another one of those. It's not really anything, so we'll leave it out of the shot. We have plenty of room for other things to be set aside. I may end up, once I've got everything out, I'll pause the video and then go over what was in here. You'll be able, of course, to stop the video and pause what cards I've actually pulled out to go over it. Turn Aside was reprinted. I believe it was originally in Urza's Saga or Legacy. Legacy, I believe. Let's see. Crop Signal. Stitchwing, another blue rare, Niblus of Frost, a Shrill Howler. Put it right here. We have a land card and token. Not too bad. So far, if I'm building, we have a lot of blue cards. A lot of blue cards. And the next possible one would be, I might go black-blue, we'll see. Well, now we're going to get some green cards. We have sacrifice effects, a couple of counters. Common. Yeah, it looks like green-blue now. Let's see, Abundant Maw. Technically its color identity is black, but it's actually colorless. Not sure. Put it there. We have Athalia. Now there's a possibility as well. Graph Rats is our flip card. Set that there. Everything's still in the shot. Pretty much. Flip card there. Hey, we got a double token! Finally! Gosh, these things are hard to find. And for no reason, really. Booster 3. Well, that Thalia kind of gives us some options, but it still looks like it's going to be blue-green. We just keep getting good green-blue cards. Horde Swarm. Technically still colorless. I know it's different from the previous video, but what am I going to do? Finally, Academy. Colorless goes here with the artifacts. Another colorless. We have a foil card in here. Hamlet Captain. Green. Loose Scrap Mob. Midnight Scavengers and Cryptolith Fragment foil. Wow, nice. It's always cool to get a double-face card foil. Let's see, Midnight Scavengers will go here. And we have Graph Rats and Midnight Scavengers, so we have that to think about as well. Technically, it's a foil. We'll put it right down there. There we have a zombie token. Always useful. The air conditioner cuts out, and that's good. Now you can hear me better. Apparently I've watched other YouTube channels that they also have problems with their air conditioning. I mean, it's the middle of July. What am I going to do? Turn off the air conditioner? No. 2 Bloodbriars so far. Just off the top of my head, that's a really good thing. Enough for me to say, I'd probably go blue-green still yet. That's uncommon. Collective Effort. Oh. And 2 Cryptolith Fragments. Very interesting. It's still technically colorless, so we'll put it down here. Just leave the foil at a different spot. Another zombie token. Nice. And our last booster open. And then we'll start. I guess I'll pause the video and then start going through how I organize things before putting together a deck. Cultist, Borrowed Hostility, Thraben. Standard Bearer, Contingency Plan. Savage Alliance, Insatiable Gorgers, Scoured Laboratory. Bloodhall Priest. That's interesting. Don't really have a multicolor section, so we'll just put it here with the tokens. Another Midnight Scavengers, but only 1 Graph Rats. We have Assembled Alphas. Wow, that's really nice. Another foil. So this was our rare. 4/4 for 4, nice. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, if you have no cards in hand, it deals 2 damage to target creature or player. Madness of 3. Well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this and then kind of stack everything up and then just go through what the different stacks of cards will do. So let's get started with that. Alright, welcome back. Though this actually no time has actually passed, but now we've got the air conditioner running again and the refrigerator's running as well, and I don't feel like going and catching it. So now I've gone ahead and selected all of the cards. Well, I haven't not selected them. I've gone ahead and sorted all the cards. In this case, I sort them by casting cost first, and then kind of get a chance to figure out how they all work. For example, in this case, we'll start with red, although that doesn't make sense. I should start with white. Yeah, let's start with white. White gave us some interesting cards and definitely worthwhile, but the problem was we didn't get any really good powerhouse cards other than Thalia herself. We have 3 Thraben Standard Bearers, a Lunarch Mantle, which is pretty good, gives the creature +2/+2, so 2 for 2/2, immediately put it on the Standard Bearer, making it a 3/3 on your second turn. That's not too bad. We've got some removal for artifacts and enchantments, collective effort, way to remove creatures, destroy enchantments, etc., pump up our creatures. Ironclad Slayers, which are good for pulling up auras or equipment cards, so it helps with itself and some of the equipment cards that you'll see in a moment. Desperate Sentry, 1/2 for 3. When it dies, you get an Eldrazi Horror, so it's okay to chump block with it. And then it gets +3/+0 if there are 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard, which is decent. We could actually play a black-white deck with that. Thalia, Heretic Cathar herself, 3 mana for 3/2 first strike, good. Opponent's creatures and non-basic lands enter tapped, also good. So we have a lot of decent 3 mana cost cards, like the Slayers, the Desperate Sentry, and Thalia herself are enough for me to say we could play white in this type of a deck. Collected Effort is a decent removal, and Iron Right's Cleansing are decent for artifacts and equipments our opponents would play. But we actually have better cards for this effect in green, and I'll show you those in a little bit. So we could go with white. We can always slide in these 3/2 creatures very easily. The Standard Bearers are terrific, but I mean 1/1 for 1, no problem. Later on in the game, when you draw extra lands on your opponent's turn, you can tap, pay 1/1 white, tap, discard the card to put a 1/1 token into play to chump block, so you turn the land into a 1/1 creature and help perhaps prevent a bunch of damage you might have taken. But in limited, it's just not fast enough and not worthwhile to play 3 of them. You don't want to draw one later on when you really needed something else, and more than likely you'll just discard it to put out another 1/1 soldier instead. So blue was a little bit more promising. We have plenty of good removal as counter spells and tap target creature type effects that might slow an opponent down just enough. We have Mausoleum Wanderer, a decent card. It gets plussed for other spirits entering the battlefield, and you can sacrifice it to counter an instant or sorcery unless the player plays X, where X is the Wanderer's power. We have 2 Turn Aside, which in a format where there will be plenty of removal would be a great way to stop our opponent from trying to kill our creatures. We got a couple of card draw effects. We have Take Inventory at 2 casts, but we didn't get any other ones. So 2 mana just to draw a card. If we get down to just 40 cards, that might be worthwhile, but by itself is just not enough to call it a strategy. Contingency Plan is a little bit better for that, because you can look at our the top cards, get what we want, put the rest into our graveyard, perhaps to trigger Delirium if we need to. Then we got plenty of 3 casting cost cards. We actually have 4 Exultant Cultists. When they die, we draw cards, which would mean we could make a pretty fast deck if we were to play blue, going with the idea that we'll lose them and we're fine with that. So that's a possibility. It is a little bit slower than the 3/2 creatures we have in white, but perhaps worthwhile. Like I said, blue-white could even use Delirium with that 1 creature. We also have a Prowess creature, plenty of instants and sorceries to play. We have 2 Ingenious Scabs, 2/3 Prowess, and it has a pump effect. Then Displace to exile our creatures if we were to block, or if we needed to save them, if we didn't want to use the Turn Aside or it didn't show up. We could block a creature that didn't have trample and exile our creature, then immediately return it back to play. It would be a different creature for the rules standard, so it wouldn't still be blocking. It's a possibility. And Chilling Grasp, instant speed, be able to tap down 2 creatures. The creatures would not untap, so we can do that before they're declared as attackers on our opponent's turn. Be able to swing out with our creatures. Perfectly useful. We have enough cards to say yes, that's worthwhile. Niblis of Frost, 3/3 prowess for 4, and it gets, whenever we play an instant or sorcery spell, we can have an additional creature an opponent controls. The creature doesn't untap during the control's next untap step. So with Chilling Grasp, this could become a 4/4 creature, and, pardon me, we would actually tap down 3 creatures with its additional effect. That's why it's rare. The Advanced Stitchwing, if we were to put it into our graveyard with a contingency plan, we would be able to pay 2 and 1 blue and discard 2 cards to return to the battlefield tapped on our opponent's turn. So 3 mana, discarding 2 cards from our hand to put a 3/4 into play is really good. We could even discard the Chilling Grasp if we had the 7 mana to madness the effect. This can be done during our opponent's turn. That's why it says come into play tap, so we can't just put it out to block. And the last card is our card draw effect, Scour the Laboratory. With Delirium, it costs 2 less to cast and draws 3 cards, so an instant speed, 2 blue and 2 to draw 3 cards is incredible. 6 mana to draw 3 cards is still pretty good, even if we don't have Delirium. So I think we're playing blue, no matter what. This is just too many good cards in blue to not play any of them. I mean, we even have a 1/1 flyer for 1. And we have a possible way to pump it up with the Lunarch Mantle. So blue-white is a possibility. Except for, we've got some other cards in green that I'll need to show you. Oh yeah, we also have Drownyard Behemoth. It is a 5/7 for 9 with flash. We can cast it on our opponent's turn, and it otherwise emerges for 8, 7 and 1 blue. We could potentially sacrifice the Advanced Stitchwing and pay 1 and 1 blue to put this into play at instant speed if we needed to. And then it would gain hexproof as long as it entered the battlefield this turn, which means on the next turn when you can attack with it, it's no longer hexproof. But we can block with the Stitchwing, sacrifice it to this effect, put this into play, and then possibly even pull this out on the following turn if we needed to. So we have a lot of really good options in blue. Let's go to black, and we have a lot of good options in it as well, as you're about to see. We have Newscraft Mob, 6 mana for a 5/5 creature because it has 5+1/+1 counters. Whenever a player casts a spell, remove a counter and put a 2/2 zombie into play. That means when you cast a spell or your opponent casts a spell, you put the 2/2 zombie into play. So for those 5 counters, you're going to get 5 2/2 zombies, and basically 10 power and 10 toughness for just 6 mana. Pretty good. Not to mention you can always block something, cast an instant, and pull the last counter off if you needed to. If it's going to die, you can always respond by casting a couple of spells to put some 2/2 zombies into play. Decent card. Ruthless Removal, 5 mana. As additional cost, sacrifice a creature. Pretty easy to do if you can put that in, or if you have other effects from creatures coming in from the graveyard, that's also true. 2 target creature gets -13 until end of turn, so it removes 2 creatures. You lose this card and the creature you sacrifice to get rid of 2 creatures. Pretty good. It's not a tragic slip, but it's like 2 tragic slips for 5 mana. We have 2 Midnight Scavengers. When they enter the battlefield, you may return target creature with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to your hand, which is pretty good. There's going to be a few cards in here that you'll be able to pull in from your graveyard. We have Thraven Foulbloods, 3/2. Delirium makes it a 4/3 with Menace, so not bad for 3 mana. 3/2 for 3 is pretty good. Wailing Ghoul, 1/3 for 2. When it enters the battlefield, put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. Works with Delirium effects in blue. Works with Delirium effects in white. Olivia's Dragoon, 2/2 for 2. Discard a card to gain flying. That would work with some madness effects. I think we had one in here. Yes. Weirded Vampire has a madness effect, 3/3 for 4, or 2 and 1 black instead, which means we could actually madness it into play on our opponent's turn to block. And then, Graph Rats. The other cool thing about this madness effect is we could discard any of these creatures into our graveyard and then pull them back with the Midnight Scavengers, which could be worthwhile. As long as it's 3 costs or less, that's what these are. So not bad. We have some decent cards in black. Also, we have our other removal cards in black. We have Boon of Emrakul, gives the creature +3 +3 -3. That -3 toughness would be enough to kill off most of the creatures in the set, making it worthwhile. Succumb to Temptation gives us a little extra card draw at instant speed. Terrific for the blue side. Gavany Unhallowed. Whenever another creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on it. It's like the white mana mob creature from Shadows of Innistrad, and then the Weirded Vampire I showed you earlier. So we have some decent removal in black, and we have some decent recursion as well. And of course, if you can get Graph Rats and Midnight Scavengers into play at the beginning of combat, they will flip, becoming Chittering Host, Haste, and Menace, which means at the beginning of combat you will still be able to say this creature can attack. When it enters the battlefield, other creatures control get +1/+0 and gain Menace until end of turn. It's a 5/6 Haste and Menace, not bad. It has a cool effect of the meld mechanic. That's just really cool. Instead of it being big furry monster, which had to be done sideways, something like that. Pretty cool. Let's see, now we move to red. Red was actually a little bit disappointing. Oh, sorry. Actually, I need to show you we have an Eldrazi card that we could put with this. Abundant Maw. 8 mana for 6/4 or Emerge for 6/1 black. When you cast it, you target opponent loses 3 life and you gain 3 life. That's a 6-point swing and could be worthwhile. You have plenty of ways to sacrifice, which means most of them are going to be 2 casting costs. If you were to sacrifice them for the Emerge cost, it would be basically be 4 mana and 1 black. So 5 mana to get out of 6/4 and make your opponent lose 6 life, or make your opponent lose 3 life and you gain 3 life. Oh, gosh, sorry. It's much easier for me to think of this stuff as I'm doing it than it is to explain what I'm thinking. I think faster than I talk. Okay. Not to mention we have some artifacts that we'll get at later, because that will possibly give us enough to play 3 colors. Now we go to red. And red was, unfortunately, like I said, a little bit disappointing because we had a few good cards. We have a 6 cast cost 5/5 creature, Assembled Alphas in foil. Whenever it blocks or becomes blocked, it deals 3 damage to the creature and 3 damage to the creature's controller, which means your opponent just doesn't block it. Otherwise, they're going to take 3 and their creature will most likely die. I mean, there's not many things with higher than 8 toughness in the set. So, this is a decent card. It'll get through, but if you keep it back to block, they're not likely to attack with anything because they'll take 3 damage for you blocking. That's a very weird strategy for red. And in limited, might work. Just have to think about it. Alchemist's Greeting is our one, I think, the only removal spell we have. It deals 4 damage to target creature, but we can madness it for 1/1 black. So with all the discard effects that we have so far, which is just 2, the black creature that's 2/2 for 2 lets you discard to give it flying, and the oh, they've got 3. We have the Thraben Sentry that lets us discard a card to put a soldier into play, and the blue Stitchwing that lets us discard 2 cards to put it into play from the graveyard. Stensia Innkeeper, 3/3 for 4. Tap target land opponent controls when it enters the battlefield. The land doesn't untap during the controller's next untap set. That's such a weird effect. I get that you can't do land destruction anymore, but that just doesn't cut it. I mean, you could maybe lock down their strategy a little bit, but by the time you draw 1 or 2 of these, they're likely to have plenty of mana. If they're playing 3 colors, then maybe you'll slow them down, but this set actually has so much mana ramp, so much mana, what am I looking for? Helps you to cast your spells, so there's no real reason for it. Blood Mist, 4 mana enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gains double strike until end of turn. Decent card. This is actually going to be a fun card. Might see this in Commander play. Could be a standard deck because of the double strike, because I think Tarka rotated out. You'll have a way to give your giant creatures double strike now. Insatiable Gorgers, 5/3, has to attack each combat if able, 4 mana, not bad. You can madness it into play for 3 and 1 red, which means you can get from having to spend double red to play to just having to spend 1 red. Makes it easier to splash. Vilden Pack Outcast, 5 mana card, trample for 4/4. 4/4 trample, not bad. It has the +1/-1 effect to make it a little bit more powerful, and it can transform to a 5/7 with trample that just fire breathes for colorless. It's an interesting card. It's definitely a decent card. It can be splashed pretty easily, so we might consider doing that. Let's see, Deranged Whelp, 2/1 menace for 2. It's 1 creature, Galvanic Bombardment, not really a removal spell. Bold Impaler, not a decent pump card. We had a better one, Shadows of Innistrad. Borrowed Hostility, escalate of 3, so we can pay 1 red mana to give target creature +0, or target creature gain first strike, or we can pay 4 mana to give something +3/+0 and first strike. And we got 2 of those. So 1 red mana for an extra 3 damage on something, that's actually pretty good. That's Lightning Bolt, if you need it to be. And then Savage Alliance, 3 mana, choose one or more, escalate 1 colorless for each one chosen beyond the first. It gives all your creatures trample. You can deal 2 damage to target creature, you can deal 1 damage to each creature target opponent controls. That's interesting because we could pay 4 mana, deal 2 damage to 1 creature, and then an additional 1 damage to all creatures they control. So that'd be 3 damage to 1 creature, and 1 damage to the rest of them. But again, this is kind of difficult to... Like, we have a few high-cost cards that we would play, but not enough to say, yeah, we're definitely playing red. I mean, even with the Bloodhall Priest, being able to deal damage to target creature or player whenever it attacks or enters the battlefield, not enough to say that's our strategy. And we go to green. Let's see, Sumberwald Stag, that is a removal card. Swift Spinner, 2/3 Flash Reach for 4, a little high-costed for this. 2 Spring Sage Rituals, which restores artifacts and enchantments and gains us life, and you're going to see artifacts and enchantments in this set. People are going to be playing this in limited, so it's possible to keep one of these in main board and 2 of them, and the extra one in the sideboard. Emrakul's Influence is completely useless in this limited environment. We do not get enough of these emerge cards to say, yeah, we're definitely going to play it. Woodcutter's Grit, another way to protect our creatures beyond just the green, or beyond just the blue protection. Bloodbriar, whenever you sacrifice a permanent, it gets a +1/+1 counter. 2/3 for 3 is terrific. We're going to be sacrificing permanents in this set. And then we have 3 Woodland Patrols. 3/2 Vigilance for 3 gives us an attacker and a blocker. And a Shrill Howler, 3/1 for 3. Creatures with power less than it can't block it. So if in a pinch, we could actually pump it up to make it a 6/1. And if they don't have enough power, they can't block it. Or 6/4 protected. And it can flip for 6 mana to become a 3/5 that still can't be blocked. But whenever it deals combat damage to a player, we put a 3/2 colorless Eldrazi. So this could generate more creatures for us in the late game. Give us more of an advantage. Because when it deals the damage, we get something that we can block with in a pinch. We have Hamlet Captain, which pumps up our humans, of which we have these 3 Woodland Patrols, and a few white creatures were humans. Possibility. Crossroads Consecrator, 1 mana for 1/2, and it can give target attacking human +1/+1 till end of turn. Crop Sickle, useless. Prey Upon, another removal spell. So we don't really have hearty enough creatures to really use Prey Upon, but because of how many 3-powered creatures we have, we might be able to take out enough cards. And of course, the Sumberwald Stag is a removal spell. It's 5 mana for 4/3. When it enters the battlefield, it fights target creature you don't control, if you want. Worthwhile. Definitely worthwhile. So, again, I think green is a possibility. We also have the Emerge card, It of the Horrid Swarm, 7 mana, or 8 mana for 4/4, where we can emerge for 6 and 1 green. When you cast it, you get 2 1/1 green insect creature tokens. The creature tokens are negligible, but 8 mana for 6 power and 6 toughness, still not good enough. Sacrificing another creature, still not good enough. You don't need that much board presence because we don't have any way to just pump them all up, so having insects just doesn't make that any much more worthwhile, even with the Emrakul's Influence. Now, something to consider is that these emerge cards are completely colorless. They can go into any deck. You just can emerge them out for the color cost and the sacrifice. So that is something to consider. Not enough to say, yeah, we're definitely playing green for it. Maybe somebody did very well in the pre-release with that, but I couldn't. Now, we have plenty of mana fixing. Cryptolith Fragment. Enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap for 1 mana of any color, and then each player loses 1 life. Beginning of your upkeep, if each player has 10 or less life, you can transform it. So it's a good card to just play. Then it becomes a 1/4 with flying and death touch, and whenever it attacks, each opponent loses 3 life, making it essentially a 4/4 creature. Except 3 of it's unblockable. We have 2 of them, 1 of them in foil. This is worth to play in the deck no matter what, because that 1 life each turn, 1 life at the end of your opponent's turn, 1 life during your turn, is worthwhile if you get any kind of an advantage and you have any kind of life gain. That's why the removal spell, it's 4 cost, a short target artifact or enchantment and gain 4 life, gives you that much of an advantage. Terrarion is another card. When it's put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you draw a card and you can fix your mana once. Not bad. We have Geist Fueled Scarecrow, 4/4 for 4, and at that price, even though your creature spells cost 1 more to cast, your opponent will want to get rid of it. It's too big a creature to not have an answer. Cultist Staff, 2/2 equip for 3, 2 mana to get out. So essentially, if whatever you cast, if you pay an extra 3 mana to give it +2/+2, makes it worthwhile, because this sticks around. This is a very good card in limited. It's like the card from the bracers from Shadows of Innistrad that gave your human creature vigilance and +2/+1. Otherwise, just +1/+1. Definitely worthwhile. We have a 2/1 field creeper for 2 mana, which means this would be another target for the 5 mana black creature that pulls a 3 cost or less from your graveyard to your hand. And then 2 Cathar's Shield, which gives our creature +0/+3 and has vigilance. These work if we want to use fight effects, like put these on our creatures to make them a little bit beefier, and then also to swing out and have something to block. We have a lot of good options in this. And the Nephelia Academy, it wasn't enough discard effects to say we're definitely going to play this in the deck, and definitely not enough to say, yeah, we want to make that our strategy. I don't know if there's enough discard effects in limited that we'd really have to worry about it, because we're going to be casting everything we get as quickly as we can. So now I'm going to pause the recorder again and put together a deck. And then I'll talk you through why I did it the way I did. And now that the deck has been more or less completed, I can show you what we actually went with. I went with a little bit more of a fast strategy, because the Cryptolith Fragment is just such a good card in limited. Even if you don't get to tap it for much mana, that that last ability there at the beginning of your upkeep, if each player has 10 or less life, you can transform it to make it a 1/4 with flying and death touch. It's a terrific blocker, and when it attacks, your opponent loses 3 life. Worthwhile to play. It gives us mana ramp and an extra creature. This is a really, really good card. So it allows us also to play 3 colors safely, in my opinion. Now, I went with a little extra card draw, a little extra filtering for the top of the library. We have the 2 possible pump creatures here, and the only emerged creature we're playing, the Drawn Yard Behemoth, because it has flash. That is the best one in my opinion. The Stitchwing, because we can pop it out on our opponent's turn if we have a couple lands in our hand. I mean, 3 mana, sure, easy. The Niblis of Frost, because we can cast our spells and tap down our opponent's creatures to keep them from blocking and swing out for 4. Then we still have our creatures that when they die, we get Eldrazi, has a delirium effect. Thalia to slow down our opponent. They can play something and we can still swing through. Lunarch Mantle to pump things up. The Effort to put +1/+1 counters, destroy enchantment if they have an aura in play, or to kill one of their 4-powered creatures. Everything else we should be able to take care of. We have ways to pull back our auras. We have 1 aura and 1 equipment, but still. Prey Upon for fighting. Woodcutter's Grit for evasion, keeps our creature from getting targeted. Another fight card. 2 vigilance creatures, and we're going to actually play the Geistfueled Scarecrow, because despite the fact that we're playing an abundance of creatures, the 1 extra mana in limited doesn't stop us very much. It's 4 mana for 4/4, and most of our creatures are 3 mana, and the Scab doesn't even, we could cast the Stitchwing, doesn't even have to be cast, so we can take it in from our graveyard. It doesn't cost 1 extra to do that, so it's worthwhile to put this in the deck. A 4/4 for 4, if it gets out and you start pumping it up and swinging out with it, they have to deal with it. So, now we're going to talk about how we want to distribute our mana, and the easiest way to do that is to take your cards and for every 3 of a particular color, set them aside. Like we'll say there's those 3 there. This is technically colorless. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 white, 3 green, 2 there. Then we have 3 colors here, 3 colors there. Now, for every 3 cards of a color, you want to have 2 lands that produce that mana. So I've already distributed them out, but we will take 2 islands there and 2 islands there, 2 plains there and 2 plains there, 2 forests there, and this is where it gets a little bit weird, because we don't have enough to say this is definitely 6, but we don't want to have less than that, so we'll do 2 forests there. Now, we have these colorless cards. These actually produce mana but become a creature. This requires blue mana to emerge. These require no mana. This gives us a draw effect. This is an equipment, and this is another creature. So we have an extra 4 cards here. So we'll do, let's see, 2 there, 2 there. And this extra fixing means we have a decent amount of each color. But blue is the one we actually have the most cards to cast from, that require the most and do the most effects. So we'll want to have as much blue as possible. White would be next, and then green after that. And let's see. We have 23 non-land cards. So that means we need 17 land. Let's see. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. We have one more land to put into the deck. To make it an even amount, I would suggest we go ahead and put a 6th forest. Just to make it even. And I had one set aside, and I don't know what I did with it. There we go. So, that doesn't sound right. If it's even, it should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. We actually need more white than we do green. We have fewer of that, so we should actually go for plains. My apologies. I think faster than I say. Alright, so we'll sleeve these up and we'll do a few practice draws, shuffle and draw, to see what happens. Alright, now we have all the cards put together, and I'm just going to real quick talk about what our sideboard would be. I mean, we have all of these cards to actually look at as far as our sideboard goes, but these are the cards we'd actually go for according to what our opponent's doing. If our opponent has a more aggressive strategy, we would take out some of our creature pumps and put in these Cathar shields, because getting out Vigilance and a high enough toughness means they have to, they have to come up with a different way to deal damage to us, because their creatures aren't going to be able to cut it. Likewise, if they're trying to get in a little extra damage, the Repel the Abominable we had prevents damage from non-human creatures. Humans aren't really the problem in this set. It's the non-humans that are dealing most of the damage, including the Eldrazi Horrors. They have a lot of removal cards. We will have Turn Aside. If they're playing a control strategy with a lot of walls or tries to duplicate our effects, we have these Chilling Grass that we can put in. And of course we have our removal. Spring Sage Ritual, which lets us gain some life, gets rid of their artifacts or enchantments, or even our own if we needed to. Ironrite Cleansing lets us exile it if they have some recursion effect. This can also be very good if they put out enough big artifact creatures that we need to deal with. So these are really the cards that are going to be our go-to stuff if we need to protect our basically to protect our strategies. Now, I'm not sure if you know about this, but pile shuffling is not actually legal. Like you can't go like this and say, you know, this is shuffling. It's not, especially since we've got our lands on the top. What's actually the best way is to, I think it's called mass shuffling. So we go like this and just kind of like that. I say go for the back corner because it's the most reinforced, and go for the side here because it's the least to catch on something, and just slides in there and just kind of accordion them together afterward like that. Do this up to seven or more times, and that should be enough to say yes, that is shuffled. Let's see, that's 5, I think 6, 7, and we can say that's shuffled. Let our opponents cut the cards. Well, looks like I'm going to have to do a little bit of video editing because I'm not sure why, but I think I went above the amount of recording space, or the total amount that it can record in one sitting. So I have to start over again a little bit. But we're going to go get enough shuffles in. Restart, which is unfortunate because we didn't get a bad hand that other game. Try to go for 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Our opening hand is a 1-land hand. Well, let's go down to 6 and see what happens. And the air conditioner cuts off. Always a nice sign. One more. There. Cut. And go for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see what we got. We have a pretty decent opening hand, I think. We can get something out on our first and second turns. Well, we can't get something out on our first turn, but we get something out on our second, and we get to scry, so we'll keep this hand. Top card. We don't have the double forest. I don't see us getting it, so we'll scry that away. Don't see us playing that for a while. Keep this. Let's pretend we get to go first. Why not? Play plains, pass turn, go to our second turn, draw. We have an island. Play an island, tap 2, play the cultist staff. Put our lands down here. Go to turn 3, draw. Cryptolith fragment, decent. Gives us a little bit of ramp, so we'll play our forest. 1, 2, 3. Play the Cryptolith fragment. And the cool thing about Cryptolith fragment is even if we don't need to use it to cast anything, we can still add the mana and have each player lose life. We've already ramped up quite a bit, so this would be a target for them to get rid of it. So, but let's say we did that and we each lost a life at the end of the turn. 19 in all. Draw. We have Ingenious Scab, an island, but we actually can cast the Advanced Stitchwing right now. So we'll go blue, that, we're 18 all. Advanced Stitchwing, 3/4 flyer. Decent card, decent blocker. If they kill it and they don't exile it, we can pull it back out by discarding 2 cards and paying 3. We have the cards to do that right now. And we can equip it to make it into a 5/6. Go to our next turn, draw. We got a forest. This time we have enough mana. We will cast the Ingenious Scab. Then we'll tap 3, 17 all, equip, making this a 5/6, and we'll swing for 5. Now their opponent will be down to 12 if we played our cards right. And that's pretty good, actually. We'll go pass our turn and go to our next turn. Now, the nice thing about this is we are always going to hold back our lands now because if this dies, we can just pull it back out at the end of our opponent's turn. So we'll always be able to swing out, or if we need to, block. Like I say then, let's go ahead and swing out with the Stitchwing. And we'll keep the Ingenious Scab around just in case we need to pump it up with something. Swing out, they'll be down to 7. We'll still be at 17, possibly 16, 15 there at 6. Go to our next turn. Draw. Let's play the Desperate Sentry. No prowess trigger. We have no cards in our graveyard right now, but if the Stitchwing dies and we draw a card that we need, we can always pull it back into play. So this is actually a really good card in Limited. Just going to say, I think we've won this game just because of how fast we got started. Cryptolith Fragment for the mana ramp. Getting 2 of those, even though one's a foil, it's lucky, I guess. But that did pretty good. Let's go to another game. Being able to pull that Scab out, like we could even pull it out a couple of times if we didn't get anything else to play. That's a really good card in Limited. Really, really good card in Limited. I don't think I shuffled that enough, but we'll find out. Draw 7 this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't do that on purpose. Let's see, we have just the ramp we need. We have the Cultist Staff, Contingency Plan. We'll be playing that on our second turn rather than playing the staff. Alright, so let's pretend we have to go second this time because our opponent lost the first game. So we'll draw for our first turn. Ingenious Scab, decent. Play an island. And we will pass turn after that. Go to our second turn. Cryptolith Fragment. Play plains. And I'm thinking we will Contingency Plan. Go ahead, look at the top 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We want to keep that, but I don't think we have the white mana for it. We will get it with the Cryptolith Fragment, though. So we will put this artifact and this forest. Do we need any double green? We'll have it with the fragment. So we will put these lands into these cards, giving us. Yeah, we'll put these into our graveyard and leave collective effort on top. And we will be very close to Delirium then. We have artifact, a creature, and a land. And a sorcery, and that's our Delirium. Untap, draw, play the forest. We have all of our mana that we need. Play the Ingenious Scab, and pass turn. Go to our fourth turn, draw. We have double white that we needed. I'm thinking play the plains, tap these 3, play the Cryptolith Fragment, prowess trigger, making this into a 3/4. Tap for double white. Each player loses a life. Prowess trigger. This becomes a 4/5. Plus that makes it a 6/7, and we'll swing for 6. Not bad for fourth turn. We don't have enough blockers just yet, but we do have a way to change that. Go to our next turn. Draw. Island. Now, we have enough to cast the Cultist Staff and equip it and prey upon, so we're going to do that. We will tap these 2 for the cultist staff, these 3 to equip, making this into, prowess trigger, so this would be a 5/6. Give it that, makes it a 7/8. Tap, prey upon, it fights something of our opponent's turn, prowess trigger, becomes an 8/9. Perhaps their blocker gets destroyed, pardon me. And then we swing, pardon me again, swing for 8. And that's a pretty decent turn. Not to mention we've both lost life from that. Untap. We can actually play more aggressively because of this card, because if we lose it, if we get down to below 10 and our opponent gets down below 10, we then have a 1/4 death touch flyer that when we attack, each opponent loses 3 life. It's really, really decent card. Draw for turn. Have a plains and collective effort. We can tap collective effort. We don't need to untap our creatures. We can destroy a target creature with power 4 or greater. Actually, let's not tap the blue mana. Power 4 or greater, or put a +1/+1 counter. We're going to trigger prowess anyway. So this will become a 7/8, and we'll destroy one of our opponent's creatures with power 4 if we need to. Or destroy an enchantment if we needed to do that. Say they put something that kept this from attacking. Then swing out and we can pump it up 3 times. And that would normally be game, or we could even sacrifice one of the islands to give it flying. Basically, we won this second game. With only 1 creature though. Not necessarily that it will go that smoothly, but we did get a pretty good ramp for the game. I would like to have a game like this. Now, we wouldn't be going to a 3rd game, but let's just do one more. See what happens. We're playing 13 creatures in this deck, not counting the Cryptolith Fragment, which make 15 if we have the right life totals. So, yeah, we're not doing too bad. And cut. Draw our 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go. Let's see. It's plenty of land. We'll be able to play out one of our creatures, and we could contingency plan to make sure we get that white mana. So let's keep this hand. Play our forest, pass. Go to turn 2. Play our island, and we'll go ahead and use contingency plan. And with this card, we can actually achieve delirium immediately. So it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see. We're going to keep this and keep this. This is a little too early, but it works. That is a tough call. I don't want to lose all of these cards. Keep these 2. Sentry would work, but it's not useful right this moment. That island isn't as useful. Woodcutter's Grit. I think we'll just lose the island and put our cards down in this order. Yeah, put them down in this order. So we got 2 cards in our graveyard for delirium. Go to our next turn, draw the plains, tap the 3, and play the woodland patrol. Go to our next turn, draw, play our forest, play the Thalia, swing. Even if they block it, it's most likely going to kill anything that they have. And their next card that they play will come into play tap, so we'll be able to swing out with Thalia. And as you know, we're going to get our Lunarch Mantle next. So untap, draw, play the forest, tap these 2. Lunarch Mantle on Thalia makes her into a 5/4 first strike, and that could be game right there. And then we can play the other Woodland Patrol, which has Vigilance, always a decent card. Swing for 5 first strike, swing for Vigilance 3, and we should be able to kill whatever it is. Untap, we can even start sacrificing these extra forests because we're not going to need them for a while. Draw. Play the Desperate Sentry. 1, 2, 3. And if we need to, we can sacrifice the Lunarch Mantle to give it... Well, we need to cast this next. But we'll swing with Thalia and the Woodland Patrols if they're not dead. If they are dead, we might consider not swinging out with them, but that would give us a 3rd card for this, and we could always sacrifice the mantle to itself to make this into a 4/2. So yeah, I think we have this game pretty well in hand. We still have removal on the rise, so let's just kind of go through the next 7 turns to figure out what we'd be doing. So you prey upon, we could have Thalia fight something, or have this fight something, and even though it would die, like we could even pump Thalia up, have her fight something, these would go to our graveyard. And one more card makes this into, if we don't have a creature in there, one more card makes this Delirium, making that a 4/2, and when it dies we get a Horror. Next card would be Geistfield Scarecrow. We have no extra creatures to cast. We can cast just about everything in the deck. So a 4/4 for 4, terrific and limited. Next turn, we get a land. I think we'd actually hold on to it for now. Pretend we have a removal spell if we need it. We can swing out. We have plenty of creatures. Next card, Ironclad Slayer. If we needed to, we could sacrifice the Lunarch Mantle, then pull it back with the Ironclad Slayer, and next turn cast it on a different card. But we could even, yeah, we could sacrifice the mantle to itself to do that. I don't know. We don't really need it. We don't have any other reason for it. But it's 3/2 for 3, so that's worthwhile. Next turn would be Cultist Staff. We would cast it and immediately equip it to Thalia or to the Scarecrow, and have a big creature, put it onto this 5/4 Vigilance. Terrific. We have Drownyard Behemoth. We could actually emerge it into play by sacrificing the Scarecrow. It would be sacrificed as a cost, so it would not... How would that work? You pay the cost before casting, I believe, but you have to have that additional amount. I'm pretty sure this would cost 8 mana to emerge, or actually 9 mana to emerge, but you can still do it at the end of your opponent's turn, so you'd be paying this 5 and sacrificing that to put it into play. But you could attack with it now and put this in at the end of the turn. It has hexproof, put the Cultist Staff on it, block something with it, kill it, etc. That was another good game then, I think. So, they've moved from limited to having early creatures that get out fast and furious, and for the mid-game to late game. That's why we want to play our 3s and 4 casting cost cards more often, have 3 or 4, 5 and 6 cost, 7 cost, and just play for as much mana ramp as possible, because these 3/2 for 3 are worthwhile to have. And that's the deck that I built from those 6 boosters. I think it would work in limited pretty well. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you're having a wonderful morning, a wonderful afternoon, and or a wonderful evening, and I hope tomorrow's even better. Take care, everyone.